Hi, welcome to Golden Years. I'm Lori Betts. This month, my special guest is John Roberts, and he is from Vantage Workforce Solutions. I found him to be a very interesting person, and he has a lot of interesting suggestions about a person looking for employment. So come on back, and I'm gonna introduce you to John. He's gonna tell us what he's all about.
When emergencies threaten, you want to know immediately. In the City of Brunswick, residents receive alerts from Code Red. The Code Red service works with a database of phone numbers of Brunswick residents. Depending on the size and scope of the emergency, Code Red alerts either all of the city or just the part that is affected.
This is a Code Red message from the City of Brunswick.
As a city resident, you also have the opportunity to add warnings about severe weather, such as tornadoes, thunderstorms, or flash floods. If you want to be sure that you are registered, or if you want to add or change your notifications or phone number, we encourage you to visit the Code Red website. You'll find a link to Code Red on the city's website, www.brunswick.oh.us. Just click on the button for complete information and options.
Welcome back to Golden Years. I am Lori Betts, and this month I am in John Roberts, and he is representing Vantage Workforce. When I first met John through Senior Service Network, which I talk about all the time, how it's a big collaboration of all the companies in Medina County, how we work so well together, whether we're businesses, nursing homes, assisted livings, hospitals, home health care. We all come together once a month and we share with each other what is going on in each individual world and how we can help each other for the seniors. John is going to share with us what his company is all about. So, John, thank you for joining us this month.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It was great in getting networking with the other different agencies that handle seniors in Medina County. Networking is is probably one of the best ways that we can reach out to as many seniors as possible. So what Vantage Aging Workforce Solution does is we do paid on the job training and development for seniors that are 55 and older and that are lower income. All right, we pair up with 501c3 nonprofits or government agencies. They provide the work opportunities and the direct supervision of the individuals, and we provide the pay behind it via grants from the Ohio Department of Aging and the Department of Labor. We also provide the overall direction and mentorship behind the operation as well. But that's the overall gist of what the CSEP program does.
So any individual can approach your company or program to see if they might be eligible to be part of it?
The biggest thing, the first and foremost, to be eligible, you have to be at least 55. I always tell people don't be in any hurry to get to that age. When you get there, you get there. And now you know that there's an agency, there's agencies available that can help you out, and with job training and development, even at that age. So yeah, and so that's
I just want to say that's a big plus because a lot of people, when they downsize companies, and if they happen to be that age, they feel helpless because where are they going to go?
a lot of times I get people come to my door that's exactly what happened to them. I have one lady, she was a bank manager and got downsized, and then now she has nowhere to, now she's overqualified for things. But we look at all the intangibles when when we're bringing people in. There are also other eligibility things that they have to adhere to. One is, because it's a Title V program, there's income eligibility limits. So they can't exceed a certain income level, and depending on the number in the household, that income threshold goes up.
Working hours might be flexible.
Yeah, well, the working out we do see what we are mandated is we have the individuals that work for the partner agency at 20 hours a week or 40 hours in a 2-week period, and the other time is being utilized for job search, interview, supplemental training, everything. And I'm sure we'll cover more of that supplemental training talk later. But as far as again the eligibility, the eligibility part, they have to be unemployed for at least 2 weeks. And things like that. Ahead of the line privileges go to obviously anybody who's homeless. Veterans get from the line privileges as well. And usually, and then I prioritize from there, for most in need. And most in need could be anything. People with transportation. Some people have no income at all. They don't have Social Security of any kind of pension. Obviously, I put those. We put those people at the head of the line because though obviously, when you think of somebody most in need, it's somebody who doesn't have any income. That kind of fits that definition to the T.
So is there a cap on the age?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will tell you, I have some individuals that are in my program that are in their mid 80s, and they are still as spry as anybody else. They're amazing people. They do great work. I get glowing reviews from their host agency supervisors. I wouldn't, when they, that's obviously, we don't discriminate, age discrimination. And I've had them ask me like, well, am I too old? I'm like, are you kidding me? Absolutely not. You're in the right place. This is the one place where you won't be discriminated for your age. Matter of fact, we do everything to help you overcome the barrier of age. So, a lot of people are, there's a lot of companies and organizations that because the legislature says, hey, you can't discriminate because of age. Come on, let's be honest. We all know that there are, companies and organizations out there that do discriminate. So what we do is to try to bridge that, try to bridge that gap is, we're developing that current work experience. We're updating their skill set and things like that makes them eventually more marketable in the open job market.
Well, that's good to know because I'm sure the people, even if someone were 65, okay, and then they had the huge job change, and you're down on yourself, you're thinking you won't be able to get a job. I mean, that's great. To have an 80-year-old, that's wonderful.
And I don't have just one, and age doesn't matter when you come through the door of Vantage Aging. That is for sure.
Okay, so what are some of the benefits besides being employed does a participant have in this program?
The benefits is you're not technically employed. It's unsubsidized employment, and let me cover that just for a minute. I want to differentiate between the two so we don't get confused. When they come into the Vantage Aging program, it's for job training and development purposes. Again, whatever skill set or whatever they're looking for, whether to develop some current work history or update their skills, that's when we have to, that's what we have to take into consideration. So the overall purpose is for them to get, I tell them when they come in the program, I was like, I want you out of the program as quickly as possible. Not because I dislike anybody's, because I want you on to bigger and better things. You want to be on to bigger and better things. Because again, when you're in our program, in the training program, it's only, you're only paid you're only allowed 20 hours a week or 40 hours in a 2-week period. And that's it. Because the other time is used, like I said before, is used for supplemental training. So now the benefits, what they have for being in Vantage Aging is that they're developing those skills, and I'm helping them through that. If they have, they have an issue, that's when, they have their host agency supervisors as that first line of defense. But after, in a normal job, they don't have a secondary line of defense. That's where I come in. It's either, it could be something as little as giving them a pep talk or something, or giving them like, you may need training in, Microsoft Excel or customer service, or you want to be in a warehouse, you want a tow motor license or something like that. That's the benefit because we have training funds that do that. We also have this thing where we have, it's called Workforce Fundamentals. And what that is, it's a list of trainings that we do, and it's done right from the lynda.com via the libraries. And a lot of these they start at the very basics, whether, it's computer etiquette, phone etiquette, basic computers. Because you got to figure when these individuals, the demographic we're working with, when they come into the program, a lot of times their technological skills have not kept up with the times. And that's just the way it is because they were so set in a job. Maybe it be a factory worker or whatever. So they didn't have to adjust with the times. But now that they're forced to, and this helps them because that's one of the biggest fears I get. One is this, lack of self-confidence from some seniors when they come in because of maybe they're losing a job or that they're making a transition from one career to another. Obviously, when you get to a certain age, you're not going to be hanging drywall or using a jackhammer on a construction crew. So you're going to have to transition into something else. And so that's where we help a lot of people with that by training them in other areas. So they can still, they still have the energy and the experience to work. And another thing, and this is one thing one of my biggest selling point for seniors, you cannot teach loyalty. You cannot teach dedication. You cannot teach work ethic in a classroom. And this demographic, the demographic we work with, we know, hey, they're part of the greatest generation for a reason. They weren't given that name for, just because. They're great, part of, a lot of these individuals were in that, in that time, during that era, and they bring that skill set and that passion and that work ethic and that drive, and they bring to the table still.
How long has this program been around?
This is an easy question to answer. Two reasons why I know that. One, I researched the company before I got before I took my interview, and two, they came they were created on the year of my birthday, 1975. So they've been around for 45 years. So that's always an easy question for me to answer. So, another thing I do want to say too is this program. And this is CSEP across the board. Individuals can only be in the CSEP type program for up to 4 years total. Now, CSEP, when I say CSEP, that means, that's a senior employment. That means Vantage Aging, Experience Works, Goodwill, Black Caucus, ARP, we're all under the same umbrella. So you couldn't do 4 years with Vantage Aging and then go do 4 years in ARP. Because again, we're a stepping stone program for people, and that's what we're designed to be, and that's what we're good with. We want to be that. Okay, so that's why when I said I want people out of the program as quick as possible, that's one of the reasons why. But here's another reason why I want people out. Say they're in 6 months, they get out of the program, they get out, they go get a job. They're out of there, they're on this job for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, and they get laid off or they get fired or whatever. Guess what? You can always come back in the program if you still have time left, because their time stops. So you'd still have 3.5 years. You see what I'm saying? So. Yeah. That's a good tidbit for people to understand before they come into or decide to come in the program.
Now, do you have some people that start the program and then they just feel like they're so overwhelmed, they quit?
Absolutely. It happens. It doesn't happen very often because, I have, like I said, I told you before we went on camera, I'm a retired Marine. So quitting is not something that I take lightly, and I don't, and I will do everything I can to help you so you don't quit. But there are still some people that, unfortunately, they just don't want the help. And, and that's, to me, I'd always, like my dad, always told me, it is what it is. So yeah, people do tend to sometimes get overwhelmed, but, I can't do nothing for you at that point.
So do you kind of, once they're in the program, do you kind of feel them out and direct them to maybe what their next career might be, or what avenue
here's how I do things. Okay, when I look at an application, most of the time I can look at an application and tell everything I need to know about the individual. It's got a lot of info. Firstly, it's pretty extensive. It's pretty long. It's like 8 pages long or something like that. For different information, so I can tell a lot about the individual when I see that. Now, as I'm looking at that, when I'm first after I make sure that they're eligible for the program by being age required and income, eligible, then I start contemplating all the ifs. Okay. And what I mean by all the ifs is I take everything into consideration, whether it be first and foremost, I ask them, what is it that you want to do? What is it, what are you looking for? And a lot of people don't know. So we'll start to, we talk by looking at their work history and things like that, looking at their skill set, their education level, and then I look at, the proximity to their house, their physical limitations, if they have any. These will start things that we take into consideration, because there's a lot of jobs, honestly, there's a lot of jobs out there. And, at the, like the Home Depot, the Myers and stuff like that, they're starting these individuals off at like $13 to $15 an hour. But see, the thing is, there's some people that can't do that because of their physical limitations. So I look for, for other things in the areas of customer service, administration, reception, community services, community outreach, things like that. But there's other areas that we do, medical administration, healthcare administration, home healthcare, maintenance, just a regular maintenance custodial, warehousing, just a myriad of things. And again, even if I can't get you in the right job, my job is to get you at least in the ballpark. So I'll get you at least in that. And then once I'll do what I do after that is I'll start, developing their skill set via supplemental training, because we have funds that we could pay for supplemental training. We also have free trainings that we have for individuals that we've found in research that we use that are effective. Like I said before, the lynda.com and the workforce fundamentals. We also have, there's the Ohio Means Jobs. They have this thing called the We Owe 'em money it's a larger pot of money for more high dollar spending. And if we're co-enrolled with them, with the individual, with the OMJs, which a lot of times we are, then these individuals become, if it's part of their career, if it's part of their career pathway that we've developed for them, according to their IEP, their individualized employment plan, then we can find and pay for training. And obviously there's certain levels of aptitude and skill set that we want to make sure these individuals have, and they get that through work keys that they take at the Ohio Means Jobs. So that helps us gauge their skill set and if they would even be successful going into that. Because everybody's not going to be a brain surgeon, and I have no problem telling people that. Another thing about this job is you have to be straightforward and honest with people, so they can give themselves an honest assessment of their own self. And it's worked. It's been pretty successful.
And two people could be sitting in the room, and one person could be great at retail, another person could be great in the office. You can't hold either one against each other, because not everyone can do the same job.
We, as project directors and VANTAGE staff, we do a pretty good job of helping them understand that, I'm never telling that you can't do something, but let's be realistic. Let's set these goals first. And then once we reach these goals, then we start working, especially with the lady I just brought in the other day. I could tell she has, her self-confidence level is very low. Just by her demeanor, just talking to me on the phone, you could tell. And, and I started talking to her about it, and I'm like, listen, we're going to help you with that. I'm telling you, in a month, after a month, we're going to set some goals. You start accomplishing stuff. You're like, man, I can really do this. And you'll start to feel your self-confidence go up and up and up until you're just, you're ready to conquer some stuff.
And that's awesome. I mean, because when it gets slow that you lose your job, and then you're like, okay, I did this for 40 years, and now I have to the mindset has to be ready to go to a new field and new learning. So
it's a huge barrier for us to, for them to overcome, and it's up to us to help them out with that. Obviously humbling yourself is one of them. I use myself as an example a lot with them, because, when I was in the Marine Corps, when I retired, I was at E8, and, so I was, I had a decently high rank. And then when I get out, I'm back at rock bottom. So I had to make sure I had to humble myself to, be able to be successful moving forward as well. And, they did a pretty decent job with preparing us to make sure we had that mindset coming out. And again, so that's why, I passed that along to my applicants, my participants, and most of them respond very well.
So how would you suggest Mrs. Jones starting the first step? By calling you, by looking at your website first?
You can go to our website. All of our information's on there. You can put an inquiry you can submit an inquiry for information, or just download the application itself. My number you can go right to the Elyria website for mine, for the VANTAGE agency for Elyria, and all my contact information right now, because we're working from home. All my calls are forwarded to my cell phone. I don't know if my cell phone is actually on that, but it doesn't matter, because it all comes to that. What happens is, once you make contact, we see, we send you the application, or we screen over the phone first. Usually one of my administrative assistants will do that, and then they go from there. Absolutely. But obviously right now I'm doing all the, I miss them, if I didn't appreciate them before, which I did, I appreciate them more even now. But so we screen them. If they are eligible, then we send them the application, because obviously there's no reason for them to go through all that trouble to do the application when they're not even eligible in the first place. So, yeah, we do a pre-screening with that. And then once I get the application back, that's when I start looking. I start contemplating the ifs of where, not only of what they want to do, where I'm going to place them. I'm looking for closest proximity to their home. I'm looking for what they want to do. And I'm also looking at their skill, that they're already existing skill set, because I get some people in that have a high level skill set. I mean, again, like the lady I mentioned before, who was a bank manager. I'm like, she's, I'm not going to put her in somewhere where she's going to be sitting there answering the phone because it's going to bore her to death and she's not going to be learning. Or I'm not going to put somebody that has very little to no computer skills in a position where they're going to be typing correspondence, doing data entry and stuff like that, because that's not going to help the organization. It's not going to help the person, because neither of the, in either situation, they're not going to learn it.
So can some people go through the program and be ready to be out into the world, like maybe in a week?
I've had somebody, I went down and did their enrollment. Before I even got back to my office in Elyria, they were already had a job or out of the program. So, I've had it happen that fast. But no, I've had people a week, 2 weeks, a month. It's, people, you could tell the individuals who are extremely motivated to find employment. You could tell who they are. And other ones, they need a little bit more motivation, a little bit kick in the hind parts, in order to, to get motivated and do some stuff. But that's okay. And again, that's what I'm here for. It's, just a little motivation for them.
Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that face them when they're in your program?
The biggest barriers I see is, like I mentioned before, self-confidence is a big one, but it's just a lack of the updated technological skills, with computers, and that goes with even applying for jobs, because some of these individuals in the senior demographic, because they lack that technological skill, it's hard for them to properly job search. The days of going in and filling out applications is over. Everything is done online, everything. And and we have, but there's training that we have there in place. I have staff participants, that my admin assistants that work directly for me, that help out with resumes and other agency referrals that they may need. You have the Ohio Means Jobs, and all this is free. You don't have to go pay. You don't have to go pay anybody to go do a resume, because most of the time those resumes that you pay for aren't worth anything anyways.
Well, that's a very good point, John. Because everyone is so, they're always thinking,
this is like, no, that's not the, because people will sell you a product. Now you're dealing with individuals who work with employers in job training development. We know what the employers want to see on resumes. We know what they don't want to see, and it's constantly updating and changing. So when we get these resumes, we're like, well, this isn't supposed to be here. We need to change this, we need to change this. And then, they're back out into the way, and their resume gets them more hits, and they eventually get jobs.
Good, very good. Okay, so Mrs. Jones is out there watching this. So what good advice can you give her to pick up that phone and make the phone call?
I have a simple saying that I picked up along the way. It's the time. Stop talking the talk, and it's time to walk the walk. Just pick. It's time to be. Pick up the phone and make that decision, and you won't regret it. If you're really serious about, if you're a senior at 55 and older and you're serious about finding employment, you give Vantage Aging a call, and from whatever counties I cover. Me personally, the Elyria project, we cover. My main office is out of Elyria, so I cover Lorain, Medina, Cuyahoga, Lake, and Geauga County. And we don't have project directors in every county, but if you're not sure, just go on our website and it'll show you all the counties and which project director for those counties that you can in fact contact.
Your website, user friendly.
We take good feedback from our seniors constantly, so we're constantly revising it, and that's the reason for it, is to be as senior friendly as possible. So I call it back in the day, I called it marine proofing things, but now we keep people, so everybody understands.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Because that's the fear. It's always the fear of the unknown. So you're changing your job, and if you're not hands-on with the computer, that is good to know that it's going to be helping them to work through it.
And if you can't do any of that, go to the Ohio Means Jobs in Medina or whatever county you're in, and they will point you to point you in my direction. and everyone knows I have a great relationship with all the Ohio Means Jobs in my counties, and they all know, we all know they know me by name. They'll get you right to me.
Well, I'm glad I had you on my show this month.
I'm glad you invited me on your show. It was awesome. What else did I have to do on Friday afternoon?
So thank you so much. So my viewers, pick up the phone, call John, have your questions ready, and I'm sure John is very friendly, so he will be shooting questions your way too. And you're black and white, so you would say, okay, what are you looking for, and how could we help you?
That's right. There's no time for sugarcoating things. It's time, we're here to accomplish a goal, and we're going to accomplish this goal come, hell or high water. That's what we're going to do.
So we'll see you guys next month, and please stay healthy and stay safe.
How does the 2020 census affect representation? There are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. These get distributed to the 50 states by population, and an accurate census response helps your state get the right amount of seats. States with smaller populations get at least one, while states with larger populations might get more. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
You're watching The Bat.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.